timing of when my uncle passed was really interesting. So he
Mhm.
passed January, like a couple months before the vaccine, right? And
Mhm.
I remember having a conversation, and by that time they were talking about developing
About
this vaccine for to keep you protected from being getting extremely sick from COVID. Actually, the way they talked about it was to prevent COVID, was the initial messaging, but then it came out like, oh yeah, no, it's like the flu vaccine. It's like y'all got some people on some okey doke. But
uh
but I just remember like him saying like I'm just trying to like do my due diligence because he had lung problems. And
oh
COVID, it attacked your lungs, literally
uh
attacked your lungs. Um
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
cells of the lungs specifically. Um,
Oh yeah.
and so he caught it, and he was like he went quick. It moved through his body really, really quickly. And it was I just remember him saying like I'm trying to hold on to like the vaccine, and we had just started talking about like for the vaccine, the conversation around that, it gave people a sense of hope, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And um we started talking about like, oh, like I remember him and my mom talking like, oh, maybe we can have Thanksgiving again, because the previous year, every year we would spend Thanksgiving with my uncle. It would be like my mom and my uncle and my brother would come and visit, and like every Thanksgiving. And so we didn't have, like, we kind of missed that. And my mom missed that too, because that was like her only living brother.
Right, right, right.
And she's
I
the
feel you.
oldest. So, but I just remember him saying, I'm just holding out, and I'm like, I can't wait for us to like come together. And like they were starting talking about, well, maybe, we'll be able to like have Thanksgiving with each other as a family again in November. And that just didn't happen. And then it also highlighted how the grieving process, right? You got me crying on here again. Like the grieving process was so just different. 'Cause
Mhm.
we didn't go to the funeral because um,
Interesting. I did
we
go to
didn't get to, because
funeral.
he doesn't live here. So
Okay,
we would have
that's right.
travel. And my mom was like, I don't really feel comfortable traveling. And then everyone else in the family had got the virus too, because they were all around each other.
Oh
And
man,
so they
that
actually
was deep.
the
That happened.
yeah, so he had it, his wife
Yeah.
had it, my aunt had it, and I think my cousin had it too. And then I think her kids ended up catching it. And so it just reminded me of how just culturally, how we mourn and we honor the passing of our loved ones. Just was like,
Yeah.
nope, can't do it. But at that time, they were allowing people to still like to kind of like have funerals like in close proximities. But it made me remember about how you couldn't do it at all. You couldn't
In
do
the
it at
beginning, you
all.
could
Yes,
not, and that was rough for most. I know that my
it
aunt
was
went.
hard. Like you couldn't do anything. They was like, well, no, we're not having a service.
I think it depends on
And
where
it
you
depends on
at
the
and what
state.
they figured out. Yeah, because April, my grandmother's baby sister went on Good Friday in April of 2020, and the cousins and them they did put something together, and we were there, so they had it where you every other seat, so you weren't gonna sit next to nobody, and then still we masked up, dressed up in mask.
No, it wasn't. I don't
So
think I don't
we
think you could
did
do
get it in
that.
hers.
Because even here, where I
April.
was at the
Mhm.
time, nothing was allowed inside. And then depending
Wow.
on the ordinance, right? of the
There
facility,
was
you
protocol.
could or could not even do it outside because of
See,
the amount of people, and also just like it just was a zoning issue. I remember
it's
hearing
different
that
here.
conversation. But I think it's just like the reminder that different communities, different states handled it very differently. Very, very differently.
The protocols got put
Yeah. And I
in
remember
pretty
this
quickly.
lady lost her son. Her son died of a car accident. And we, like, you kind of mentioned the fact of like how other people, they weren't like, COVID was the least of their concerns.
Yeah,
There's people that were like going through like
the
chemotherapy
dysfunction of cancer. Yep.
and like other things. And I just remember this lady lost her son during the pandemic. And because of the protocol, they and I can't remember what state she was in. She was in one of like the blue states that's like kind of like reddish in protocol and procedures and processes too. There's a lot of red tape in her state. They didn't want to release the
Mm,
body. They didn't want to release the body because I think where she was, they were trying to
that
require
might happen.
people to burn the bodies, to cremate the bodies. Yeah, see, there's a lot of conversations that people aren't aware of that were happening in parts of the country.
Yeah, that sound like,
And
yeah, I
and
kind of
from
recall
her
that.
culture, it's like, no, you don't get to burn the body because the way that you burn the body, it doesn't equate for the honoring of the soul to be released before that process. And so she had to like
Mm,
fill out all this paperwork, and she had to get a judge and a lawyer involved. And
wow.
and this would not have been an issue, but because we were going through this COVID protocol of how people decided for other people how they can honor their loved ones. That, I think, that was the most heartbreaking part of it. It's just like,
Yeah, no doubt.
just crazy to see. It's just, there's so much stuff. I remember they had like this big tent that would hold like the dead bodies, quote unquote, of those that died from COVID, because there was just so many patients and their morgues couldn't house the bodies. So they had to prop up a tent and house the bodies there. And then normally the family would be able to come and like identify the bodies. They couldn't even do that. They would take pictures, and they had like a website that people had to go on to claim the body. And it's just like the coldness of this process, right?
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
the sad thing is, it's just like, it's not a one off. We're talking about like hundreds of thousands of people. And I want to even say probably like millions of people, maybe 500,000 of people who probably experience some traumatic experience around losing their loved one, and then also the process of honoring the
Yes.
loss of that. It's like they didn't even get to have that, and they wanted that. And I think I understand from that perspective because that was something that my family went through.
Yeah,
And
people were alone in the sorrow. I mean,
and that, I look at my mom
wow.
now, and she carried
Yeah.
that with her. She's like, it's kind of like you
Mm,
can, because when you think about the fact that we quarantined before that, like a year or so before that, you kind of get into the state of like, oh, we're just quarantining and like out of sight, out of mind, right?
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
there was this point where my mom was just kind of, and myself too, I kind of related to her, where it's like you realize like, oh, this is real. Can't pretend anymore. He's gone.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the grief of that. But yeah, you
There
know,
was, yeah, there was a lot. I mean, and
it
what
is
we're talking
very
about is like with your mama, the lingering. So this is post-pandemic, still
I
alone
don't even
lingering
feel,
and
do you
thinking
feel like it's
about that.
post? I don't even think it's post. I still think we're still in it.
Yeah, they want to say that it isn't, but
because they
In
want to move
reality, it
away
still
from
is.
it. They want to move away from it because they want to also, some people want to move away from taking responsibility for the choices that they made on behalf of other people that was not really rooted in compassion.
Mm-hmm,
That
mm-hmm,
really
mm-hmm.
wasn't rooted in honoring their fellow human. And you did have some people that did try to do that. I remember watching this nurse talk about, and she's one of the ones that left. She like left after like a year. She was like, I couldn't take it anymore. But she said
Some of them.
they would have like once a week they would like, someone kept like a a list of all the people that passed, and they would have like this funeral service in the chapel, and they would list
Mm-hmm.
out all the names and just hold a moment, like a minute
Of
moment of
silence.
silence for each of the names. And she said that it was hard the weeks when it took like 2 hours to hold the silence. But she said that they were determined to like
Mm.
to honor it, and they would say like, hey, if you have to go, go. But someone was always there to commit to the time frame. And she said they would like rotate who would be responsible for maintaining that moment of silence, because they just felt like they deserved to be like honored in that way.
Right, right, right. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So those are like the silent heroes. I feel like the ones that really did recognize the humanity and the need to honor it. And also, I think they honored it because of them understanding the loneliness that they were experiencing, because you couldn't go in to visit your loved ones in the hospital. They weren't letting people in.
Nope, not unless you were like
No,
immediate.
they
And
weren't.
even
Some
then,
places they
well,
weren't
that's
letting
true.
anybody in.
That's right. Now, that's right. That's true because my husband wasn't able to go visit her husband right away. And then I think once the virtual stuff came on, she had to use her phone or whatever to see him through the nurses or whatever
Yeah, some
devices
places the
to
nurses
talk
did
to
do
to
that.
talk to
Yeah. Hmm.
talk to the to be able so they could see each other. So that was the other thing I looked at in the positivity of it. Even though people still found loneliness, I found really good
Always
connections
been in the
too.
positive side of things. We're supposed to be talking about the loneliness of it, the bleeding out.
Well, I'll be honest, it really was. I mean, in the instance, and of course, being fed by
I just
our
don't
leader
feel like we're
throughout,
there. I just don't feel like everybody's there.
we're not truly there because people are still recovering from it, especially economically and financially.
Yeah.
And then you had the thing about food. The food banks were crowded, and then the blessing of being able to be able to contribute food was a blessing for those who had the finances, who had made that. And that's why I tell everybody, this is off the cuff, is to go ahead and save for yourself and put some down. Emergencies, they happen. And you have to understand that you have everything that you need, rather you have to prepare for the unexpected. Nobody, really honors that if you do that, you still will be able to provide for yourself. Is that faith, is that mustard seed of faith, the trueness of it that I continue to try to sit in. But I go back and I look at this, and of course I was in thought mode, and I thought it sucked, and the fact that I couldn't drive. So here's the one other thing. Well, there's some, but you have to look at the positives within the sadness, because I guess I have always done that, and because I had no other choice but to do so, even though I recognize that times are sad or trying or just or distressing, and sometimes I've just sat with that. I felt really sad. I felt, and it's like whether or not you even want to be in body still. Those things, those questions come up within. They really do. And it's like, and then you take the shift. And when I think about our teacher and leader coming in every day, I think that also helped. at least it helped me, and it like shift the dynamic of what was going on, how to look at it, you know, in the midst of it, and then how some other people and businesses shift. And so the cool thing, and there was still, you still had to go to the hospital for certain things,